Hello, my name is Karl and I am a freshman basketball player at St. Joseph High School in Metuchen, New Jersey. Today I enjoyed the unique opportunity to meet and interview one of my basketball idols. Did anyone in your whole life playing basketball, did they ever make you feel that you needed to work harder than them and they acted they were better just to make you feel a better player and be a better player?
Yeah, for sure. My brother was always the guy that pushed me to be the best I can be.
I wish him continued success on and off the court and will be cheering for him every step of the way. Reporting for MSG Varsity in Philadelphia, I am Karl Towns.
Welcome to another episode, a bittersweet emphasis on the bitter episode of the Wolf Brothers as we mourn the loss of our beloved Karl Towns. Rest in peace, 2024. Jake, welcome.
Brother,
It's a sad
I don't
day.
even know how to intro this because I want to bring the energy, but it's a very sad day.
I feel the same way.
Dude, it
So-
is so good we didn't record right away though, because if we would have, I think I would have just been such a babbling mess.
Yeah, so let's real quick, everybody tuning in. We're recording this 3 days after the trade. And tell me where were you when you found out, and what was your gut reaction?
So I was taking the trash down. It was like noon here or something, but I was taking the trash down because I live in this big building and we go down the basement for it. And then our elevator, we lose service. So I got a text from our dad that we traded Cat. And I couldn't check to see if it was real, and I literally didn't believe it. I was like, no, he saw,
Like,
because
Dean
with
saw
our
like
dad-
NBA Centel or like some fake
Oh.
account.
he'll send us things sometimes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, you really are reaching 60, aren't you, Dad?
Hopefully he's not listening.
But I was like, there's no way it's real. And I was everything in my mind convinced it wasn't. And then when he told me it was real, I had to go up and like eat lunch and help take care of my son. But I just sat in the lobby of our apartment building for 30 minutes, just so sad on the couch because there's like some furniture there.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it. I don't think I've been emotionally attached to Timberwolf as much as Karl Anthony Towns. He's been through thick
Yeah.
and thin with us. I've defended him harder than maybe any NBA player, and
Outside of
it
Wiggins.
just
Listen,
honestly, I defended him.
We are ride or die with our number one picks. I know we traded for Wiggins, but
We are.
we
Well,
draft
Wiggins
someone
was also
one, we'll die on
had the
that hill to
KU
the end.
connection too.
Oh, I know.
Wiggins had the KU connection, and he was in my draft class, so I always felt me and him were competing. So I felt kind of a kinship
Listen,
with that.
There's always been moments where you and I have been tempted, or everyone's telling us to sell our real estate on Wiggins Island and Towns Island, because there are times where people were dogging on both of them, and it was so much of it is so tied to partially, I think, their personality. Some of it is tied to some truth, but oftentimes for Cat especially, I think some of the criticism is very unfounded, and we're not going to realize his impact until he's gone, unfortunately. I have to go back. When we drafted Towns, it was you, me. I have it on video, but it's on one of my hard drives. I got to go find it because I'm going to post it on social media. But it was you, me, Austin Renfro. We made a big just vat of cheese, fries, and wings. Do you remember this?
Oh,
Just
it was
a vat of
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Because and Cat wasn't our only draft pick that night because we also got Tyus.
Listen, we had the two things we wanted. We wanted Karl
We
Anthony
were wanting it
Towns
so bad.
and we wanted Tyus. And we had done our research. One thing we really did not want was Kristaps Porzingis, if you remember. Do you remember the Flip Sanders DJ video that went viral back then? Who's he gonna draft? He's gonna draft and he picks Kristaps. I just remember so badly being like, look, anyone but Kristaps. Who else was in that draft? There were a few other.
D'Lo went number 2,
That's
and
right.
no, someone who you liked was Jaleel. Or wait, was
Yeah.
Jaleel Okafor that draft or the draft before?
No, I think Okafor was that draft.
Yeah, he was. He was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jaleel, because there's a big debate between Cat and Jaleel, and we were
We were on the cat
way in on
train.
Cat.
We were on
Yeah,
the cat train
because
and
there was that also that pre-draft video of him hitting like 72 out of 100 threes with the Timberwolves.
yeah.
And so I was such a believer that he'd get a shot, but he was one of those stupid things where Calipari makes his players play some dumb way, and he
Yeah.
wouldn't let Cat shoot threes. Um, but yeah, oh, that was amazing. The
Yeah.
the other thing is, do you remember when we got the number 1 pick that led to being
Oh yeah.
Towns? Because we were in the pool house
Yes.
at the Ryans, and
Yes.
we were just
Oh,
embracing jumping up and down.
it
We are
was
not touchy-feely at
no,
all,
no.
except when it comes to Timberwolves draft picks.
Listen, we lived in the tanking era. Like we were bad for a really, really long time. And so when we drafted Towns, I mean, it was just pandemonium excitement. I gotta find the video, but um yeah, I mean, do you remember like the videos his rookie year of Towns just after a loss or even after a win? Remember the time he scored 50 points and afterwards he's in the gym shooting till like 2 a.m.? Like those are the kind of things that
Yeah.
like you just know the dude always loved the game and he was always a great pro. Like he didn't have all this,
Oh.
later honestly in the last few years he's gotten a little zesty in his interviews and he's been a little more like personality funny. Like early on he always knew the right thing to say. He was always well spoken. He's always been out of the drama off the court. He's had, pretty consistent um like terrible things happen to him, losing his mom during COVID, losing good friends of his. And yet, throughout it all, and throughout a lot of emotional turmoil, he's always just been a steady, consistent professional.
With us for 9 years. In his first, what, like 7 years, he had like 7 GMs and 5 head coaches. The person who drafted him, Flip Saunders, died shortly
Hmm.
after he was chosen.
That's right.
He went through he went through the whole Jimmy Butler thing. There was a point with Tibbs where like they weren't even speaking because Tibbs handled that situation horribly. I mean, Cat, I don't know if there's a more loyal player in the NBA. I don't know if there's a player who's done more for their community in the NBA. I mean, some of the stuff he's done is amazing. People get like so worked up because his voice is high,
Yeah.
and no, seriously, like
No, yeah, I
there's
know.
like this
He's
low
zesty.
key hatred of his voice that I've heard on like respectable national podcasts where I'm
Yeah.
just embarrassed for them that they're just bullying somebody for having a a voice that can sometimes sound a little
Yeah.
feminine or something. I don't understand. And then he is corny and sometimes will like say things that rub people the wrong way in terms of like things that but like it's like he'll like believe in himself like I'm the best shooting big man of all time. People
Hmm.
get all worked up about that. If I mean, it might be Dirk if you consider Dirk a big man, but if you consider fives, like there's nobody else who has ever come close to Cat in history of the
No,
NBA.
I mean,
So like p people like freak out, but it's like it's not that crazy. And you know what? I'd rather have. There's so many stars that are like
hmm
overconfident. Like, isn't that what you want? Like, I just
hmm
feel like people freak out at his like some of his antics or whatever, but like
hmm
the good so far outweigh the bad. And
Yep.
unless you like watch Cat, unless you've known him through the years, you don't know how much more good there is than bad.
Yeah. I mean, we can nitpick some of the things, but I feel like at this point, um, the overall Towns experience has been nothing but just joy and a couple injuries here and there, but for the most part, pretty consistently healthy for a big man of his size. And like this is honestly my biggest concern about us going forward is like when we play Denver, like he was the Jokic stopper. Jokic would take the multiple time defensive player of the year to school every single time because Gobert cannot take his weight. Towns was an immovable object. He's big, he's strong, and weirdly, the way he would play was catch and shoot, and he would drive to the basket and like play like he played like a three often, or a really talented four. one play I got to go back to as one of the all-time great plays was, remember when Towns had to guard Curry in the final seconds of that Golden State game?
Hmm.
On the perimeter, was with him every step of the
So
way.
great.
Just at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, "Oh, Towns, dude, he's a baller." Great Towns moment just came to my mind.
The, the
62
other
points. What was that against?
He had multiple 60-point games.
Yeah,
Spurs and
Charlotte
Charlotte.
Hornets. Yeah.
He The other thing about Towns is like sometimes people will think that Towns early in his career was like a good stats, bad team guy.
Mm-hmm.
That he didn't contribute to winning basketball. It's a criticism here a lot. But the difference is you look at certain players and you can tell that when they're on the court, their team doesn't do well.
Yep.
And everybody, if you look at the impact metrics of Cat's career, like they were always phenomenal. When Jimmy Butler was here, when Cat was on the court, we were 14 points better than when he was
Mm-hmm.
off. It was even better than Jimmy. Like throughout his career, he made his team better. So I just also want to throw that out there. Like the way he played the game, sometimes it was goofy. He reinvented his game a lot. Like early on, he posted up a lot. 2 years ago, he was like just a driver.
Mm-hmm.
Like times with Ryan Saunders, he shot tons of threes. Like he did all sorts of things. And I just feel like, yeah, he had so many phenomenal moments for us. He was an Iron Man his first like 5 years.
Yep.
And he was the best player on our team when we went. So we've gone to the playoffs 3 times in a row. And that first year, he was definitely our best player.
Yep.
Like Ant was still emerging, but like getting to the playoffs was really led by Cat.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I just feel like he's been with us through it all. And I think what makes me sad is that I don't just want to win. I want to win with Cat.
I know.
Like he feels like our guy, you know?
He
I'm
is.
hoping he pulls the KG and comes back.
I mean, his contract. So okay. So anything else you want to say? Just memory or anything else on Cat before we talk about the ramifications of this trade? I mean, there's a great article in the New York Times by our guy John Krasinski. Everybody should go read it about Karl Towns' impact in Minnesota, not just from a basketball standpoint, but with the community. The guy was an upstanding guy. He was never larger than life for his fans. He was always willing to talk and even in his leaving and finding out about the trade, he's been so gracious and kind. Like, doesn't have to be. I'm sure he feels a little betrayed, but like he's been so gracious. There's just I can't say enough good things about Towns.
Here's the last thing I'll say is that everybody who wasn't in Minnesota would make a big deal about like, oh, how are they going to handle this? Like Cat and Ant passing the baton, like who's really the number one? And the reality is it was never an issue because Ant is a homie. Like he's just a cool dude. And then Cat like gave the rate like Cat was totally cool about it. Most stars would have thrown a fit. He didn't. He didn't throw a fit with Gobert. When Gobert came, he tried too hard to pass to Gobert.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like the last thing I want to say is like we're where we are largely because of Cat and because of how amazing a teammate he was.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like that's one of the things I'm concerned about with Randall coming in is like one of the things I loved about Cat was he moved the ball. He was a great passer. He saw the floor. He made good reads. He was looking to pass. And I'm afraid our ball movement's going to get stifled. But before we get there, I'll just say Towns won a 3-point contest as a 7-footer.
And he won the skills challenge. He was the first big ever to win the skills challenge.
I mean, he's a special player, and New York is going to freaking love him. And, I think he's going to make them better. Like, if anything, they're going to, I think we can get to Julius Randle's kind of up and down health stuff, but they'll miss DiVincenzo. But I mean, they're replacing him with a better shooter. Like he's a good shooter. He's had one season in the 40s, and Towns has had multiple. He's going to be more consistent. He's going to spread the floor for them. They have the Thomas Robinson situation going. They're going to be good. Mitchell Robinson. I got my KU guy snuck in there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's going to be interesting. I think they're now all of a sudden, if they start clicking, New York like has a threat to Boston. I think. Before,
New York
no way.
Starting 5 is amazing.
That's what
New
I'm
York's
saying.
Like top 6 is really, really good.
They got to be
depth
healthy.
Isn't great, but And I think actually they're in a decent position for Towns because Finch even said it in an interview like a week ago with Britt Robson. But what Towns needs is like some to be around good perimeter defenders to be at
Yep.
his best. And they
Yep.
got um, Bridges and they got Ananobi, and he could be really special there.
Yeah.
I'm
So
now a huge New
hey,
York Knicks fan.
oh yeah, dude, I'm diehard New York
Dude, I'm
Knicks.
so
I
because
will.
they're the East too. Oh man, I
A
can't wait to
Timberwolves
watch
Knicks
them.
finals would be
Oh man.
legendary, and also to see the Knicks beat the Celtics in 7 will just be
Oh
the
my
icing on the cake.
goodness. I would love that.
All right,
I cannot wait to hear Bill Simmons cry about how Carl Towns sent his
it's just
team home.
oh, dude, it's gonna be very satisfying. Okay, so recalibrating here. The trade happens. What are your initial reactions for what we got for the trade?
Okay. So I
Versus how
will
are you
say,
feeling now?
okay, it is hard. So it's hard for me to be objective. Like, I'll just say my heart doesn't like this. If I take a step back, at the time when it first happened too, I just wouldn't even let myself think about it because I felt like I'd be betraying Cat if I viewed the positives. But the trade does have positives. And I think that from a pen and paper perspective, from the long term, I understand why it was made. So the reason it was made, I don't think was because of ownership wanting to save money. That's what people are saying because Glenn Taylor's cheap. I don't think that's it. But it was made because of the salary cap. And the second apron did play a big part in this. There was actually a tweet like a month ago that said, if you could delete one thing from the earth, what would you delete? And from our account, I tweeted the second apron. And I feel like that was kind of prophetic because
Yeah.
we might still have Carl Towns. But what this means is that we can potentially re-sign Nas, we can potentially re-sign Na, and we could potentially have big cap space in a couple of years from now. What was going to happen with Cat is because his contract was 35%.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be massive, and with
Yep.
Jaden and with Ant,
Yeah, it's
that's
like
basically
$68
all
million
our cap
or
space.
something by the end of it. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
we, and going over the second apron, you can't if you do it 3 years in a row, you're kind of screwed. Like you start losing draft picks and freezing them. It like a lot of really bad things happen. So we were in a really like tough position. And so this wasn't about this year. It wasn't even really, it was a little bit about next year, but it's about looking at the future and trying to optimize so we can be great now and be great when Ant actually enters his prime because Ant's only 23 years old. Um, um, do you have any thoughts or should I go more into what I think it means for
Well,
this year?
I'll give a few things. I think I see the long-term maximizing Ant's window of his prime and like extending that makes total sense. And I think the biggest fear is that, Ant we end up not winning and we can't get enough guys around him and he ends up leaving. Like we want him here for the long haul. He's a generational talent. There's no question. He's a top 5 guy in the league potential. I think the like my initial response was DiVincenzo is a nice piece. I love that dude. He's competitive. His last 2 seasons, he shot really efficiently from 3. Not his whole career, but he's really become a good shooter. He's got
Well,
the go ahead.
last season, let me
Yeah.
just say this. He made the third most threes in the league, and he
Hmm.
attempted the third most. He was shooting like 11 per
Yeah.
36. Like he was last year, he was phenomenal from
Yeah.
three.
So there's no
We haven't,
question,
yeah.
but he's also a 2 guard. I mean, can we is he coming off the bench? Like what's his role? Because as it stands, according to Finch, Jaden McDaniel has had the summer of a lifetime. Like all the reports are saying that he's like Jaden's here to play. And we love Jaden. We're ride or die Jaden. Um, but what does our lineup look like when that crowded position with unless we're really saying Dillingham is not ready, he's probably not going to play much.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
So that was the dirty secret of this year is we were going to lose games because Dillingham was going to be expected to be more than he should be as a 19-year-old
Yep.
rookie. Point guards take the longest to develop. He's a really small point guard. It was going to be too much on him. Now, DiVincenzo's not a point guard. Na isn't even really a point guard, but they can both fill in that role. And I think because Ant, you want to have the ball so much anyways, DiVincenzo could work just fine,
Hmm.
like with Ant in the backcourt, or even Na could get some minutes at the three or something. But there's going to be space for him, I think, and that gives us eight. Our 6 through 8 is the best in the NBA. I think hands down. Nas, DiVincenzo, and Na is sick.
Yep.
I mean, Nas and DiVincenzo are both totally 6 Man of the Year candidates, and this is assuming Nas comes off the bench.
Yep.
I don't think we can start him, but I kind of would want to because
Well, I think we start Randall at
makes
the 4, right?
yeah, we do. It makes our lineups a little smoother. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do think our depth gets really good with DiVincenzo.
Yeah. I mean, I trust Finch, and to make it work, I think we'll be really good this year. I think we have a higher, maybe would you agree with this? I think we have a higher floor but a lower ceiling, especially
Yes, yeah.
when it comes to the playoffs. I think we'll win. We might win more games than last year in the off season or in the regular season, but I do think that when it comes to gut check time, I'd much rather have Towns than Randall with the ball when it's not
So,
in Edwards' hands.
but yeah, we should have the Randall conversation
Yeah.
because Randall, like you look at his counting stats and they look awesome. And he's
Yeah.
like a 3-time All-Star and he gets like a good amount more assists than Cat. He rebounds well, scores a lot, but he's been absolutely atrocious in the playoffs. The impact metrics have always been pretty bad for him. I think, and then you're just worried about the spacing because
Yep.
he's not the shooter that Cat was. I will say his catch and shoot threes have been actually okay the last few
Mhm.
years. He shot those decent. Um, the thing with Randall is he's got kind of that D'Lo Westbrook quality to him, where the things that he's best at matter less against the best competition or in the playoffs, and the things that he's worst at matter more.
Mhm.
So he's if you give him the ball to pound it in isolation, he's decent at scoring. Like he can make some things happen and he can make some plays and things like that. But when you can scheme around him, it nullifies what he's good at, and then his lack of spacing, his lack of quick decision making is
Mhm.
really going to bite you in the butt. His lack of really
Yeah.
providing much like rim deterrence or anything like that. So he's got some things that like make me nervous for being really contributing on a great team against great competition.
Yeah.
So that is a real concern for me.
Yep.
And that's more of a playoff concern, to be honest, where
Yeah.
Cat, he was an awesome 3-point shooter. That
Yep.
scales to every level of competition all the time.
Yep.
We'll have to see with Randall.
Yeah. Randall had one really kind of abnormal season that year. He was an all-star. He shot 41% and shooting almost 6 threes a game, which is kind of crazy. But that's an anomaly when you look at his other seasons.
I don't think he's ever shot over 34% outside of that one year.
Yep. It's true. And one positive thing, I'm excited. He does not really lose much in way of rebounding. The guy's kind of a dog on the boards, which is
Mhm.
great. So I think
Good
we're going to
rebounder.
be that was. I mean, that's really why we went and got Gobert. I mean, outside of the defense was to get that. We needed that rebounding, which we were exposed against Memphis. So I feel like he doesn't lose a step there. He's I feel like I'm trying to see the silver lining because here's
It
part of it for
also
me. Oh, go ahead.
It also like some people want to see more Nas at 3, but if you want to see more Nas at 5, like he traditionally did, this allows that
Yep.
because Nas can get those 4 minutes when it's not Randall, but now we don't
Yep.
have a backup 5. I mean, except for Garza, so that naturally slots in some minutes for Nas there.
Yeah.
And I think Nas and Randall could potentially be a pretty good combo. Like we got to see if that can work defensively. I'm a little nervous, but offensively, that could be pretty good.
I have a natural inclination to dislike Julius Randle because he was in the big 3 draft with Wiggins. So that draft was Wiggins. It was
JoJo,
Joe JoJo
Embiid,
Embiid, big four, I guess you could
and
say. Because there's the guy
well, it
who
was
from Duke,
Jabari
Jabari
Parker,
Parker, who I thought was like everybody
Dante
talked about.
Exum.
Well, no, he was like he had the Kyrie comps because he was the Duke guy who got hurt but was still going to be good. Um,
Yeah. Well, he was in the commercial with like
yes,
he was in like commercials with like Chris Paul and Blake Griffin I don't remember who he was with, but like he was really getting hyped up and yeah, people compare him to Carmelo
yep,
and then he just wasn't that dude.
I know it's well, and I think it's so hard to think what if because he played 25 games his rookie year before, you know, and he just could never put in a full season. He never played more than 64 games except for that second year. And he had a decent third year in the league, averaged 20 points a game, but only played half the season. So I'm just bummed because he's a what if guy. I think if he had better health, um, he could have been good. But beside the point, this was the Wiggins draft. And we were all on Maple Jordan, like die hard. We're Wiggins till we die. And so I've always just
We
disliked.
called the Kevin Love trade way before it
Oh
happens.
yeah,
We were at camp and we were like, what if they draft him and we trade
yeah,
Kevin Love for Andrew Wiggins? And it totally happened.
yeah. So Julius Randle's always been like, he's always been the enemy. He's been arch enemy number three. But it's gonna be weird to have to like. It felt the same way when we brought in what's that guard who stood on the scoring table? I'm having a
Pat
brain.
Bev.
Yeah, Pat Bev. We have Pat Bev. I was like, I hated this guy for so long, but now he's my guy. And so that's kind of how I'm trying to reframe my mind around Randall. But I'm sure I'll get there. We may learn to love him. New York, it's funny. You go on the subreddits of the Timberwolves and the Knicks, and both sides hated it for like the
It's
first.
the only trade where both fan bases are trying to convince others that like we got fleeced. Like normally
Yeah,
with trades, you're like, oh, we totally won this, but both New York and Minnesota's like, oh, we got totally screwed.
might be good for us. I think it took longer for Minnesota to come around and see some of the reasons why, but in the end, Jake, what are you going to give this trade grade? Give your Tim Connolly grade
Ah,
out of A plus to F minus, and you have to equally balance your head and your heart.
well, my heart gives it an F minus. My head gives it a B plus.
Oh,
Here and the here's the reason for the B plus.
yeah,
Okay, so we get the Detroit possible first round pick.
yeah.
Also, Dante DiVincenzo. It's on.
What happens if we
He's
don't get that pick? Does it just go next year?
it's like it's protected weird to like
Yeah.
lottery protected, then top 14, then top 9. It's possible it just becomes a 2027 second if they never
Ugh.
become adequate. So we
Yeah.
gotta hope they outperform
All
or
right.
that they get
So we
Cooper
are
Flag.
Knicks fans and Detroit diehards is what we
Yes,
are.
we're Cade Cunningham fans now.
Yeah.
Um, but DiVincenzo's on an incredible contract
Yeah.
through
That is good.
26, 27, 3 years. Like a lot of if you look up like best contracts in the NBA, a lot of articles will have him. So I don't know, or maybe I'm not gonna do B plus. I'm gonna give it a B. The thing is, I don't it might reduce our championship odds for this year.
Hmm.
But if you're looking at our championship odds over 5 years, we needed to make a trade. It didn't we could have also traded Rudy and restructured another way, but ultimately the way that the contracts fall for both teams, I think both teams won.
Yeah. I I'm giving it a B minus. And there's the even the B in it is just the hope that there's good because I just feel like here's my biggest thing. You are this close. And all of every
Yeah.
move that Connolly makes, every
Yeah.
decision is to win a championship. If we get one championship, everything was worth it.
Well,
And we were this close, like this close. And I know not having a backup point guard, but like that's what I wish we would have figured out was can we get Can we get Tyus Jones? Can we somehow stretch the money for 2 years? Just 2 years. And then if we have to blow up around Ant, we'll blow it up around Ant. But I don't know.
Well, okay. Here's the argument that makes it worse than what we said. Is we might still have to beat Denver.
I
And
know.
we're Denver was so happy. And you know who else is happy? Phoenix.
Yeah.
Because you know who Cat guarded really well? KD.
Yeah.
And also, if you look, his defense on KD, Booker, and Beal, he held
Yep.
them three combined to like 37%.
Yep.
And you know who KD is kind of cooked in the past? Julius Randle.
Yep.
So Phoenix and Denver, I don't know, especially Denver. Can Randle guard Jokic? He's not as big as Cat.
Yep.
I don't know. Um, it might make us actually a little better against OKC, or even
Yeah.
Dallas, like the way that Randall moves a little better.
Yep.
But it definitely, I think, against those bigger teams, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot to be seen. The hype for the season for me was at like 110%, and now it's a little bit. I have to learn to love these new guys. I think it'll happen quickly,
If
and
you haven't, you should watch all the media day interviews. That'll bring up your hype
I
some.
will. I will. I am excited about how much Finch has just been hyping up Jaden. He said he had the like
Mhm.
craziest off season, and like he wants to make sure he's getting more looks because he's been working.
All right. Wait. Let me ask one more question
Yeah.
before we move on from the trade. Who would you rather have? Um, so we have our team this year, but think about the next 2 years. Would you rather have Nas, Nah, and DiVincenzo, or Cat? Because to keep Nas, we can't have Nas, Cat, and Gobert. Like Nas is
Sure.
he's gonna opt out of his player option, and he's gonna like he could get a lot in the open market. We
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
keep Nas and Cat and Gobert.
Well, I will say not finished very poorly and had a terrible Olympics. So I'm a little low on Naw right now. NAW. Now, sample size is bigger. He's been really good for us. But I think we could replace him and be okay.
Yeah,
Nas is
yeah,
a
and it could be a replacement for not to.
sure.
I'm just saying like those kind of because he'll also
Nas is a Minnesota
be out of free agent.
legend. Losing him and Towns. I mean, we did get to keep Towns obviously in your scenario, but I it here's the mistake I think people make is they just assume that Nas is going to step into Towns' role and be as effective. And while Nas does a lot of the same things, well, he's not a superstar. He's a great six man. He's a great backup center and can play starting minutes. But I just don't. I think that part of it is because he overperforms at that level. But if you put an extra load on him, expect him to play guard their best bigs all game, like it's going to look a lot different because he is limited by his size. And and then lastly, DiVincenzo is such a mystery to me. I mean, hopefully he comes and he carries where he left off. But I would say I see it, but I also feel it just I don't know. I'm not 100%
So
there.
no, you're right. And honestly, I waver all the time on this because I think Cat is incredible, and so part of me hates that I'm even saying these things.
Yep.
But here's what I think. I think that Ant can be a number one on a championship team. Obviously, I think Jaden could grow into being like a number three. Nas could be like a number four, and then we can find a number two if we have the cap space.
Yep.
Something like that. I think that's the hope for not this next year, but like for the future. We still have Gobert, who's our second best player now. But um, I think that the idea is that you can keep Nas and Jaden for like not max like Jaden's contract and 25 million whatever like growing, and then Nas you can get for whatever you'll get him for. And are they such value contracts that you can still have the space to find a co-superstar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I hear you. All right. Well, I've got to wrap up, but hey, any final last words? Anything you want to say in tribute to Cat?
I will say that, yeah, I don't know. Cat You
'Cause
are
you know he listens to
probably
this
my.
podcast.
I mean, Cat's probably my favorite Timberwolf of all time.
Yeah.
So
Second
sad to
greatest
see you
Timberwolf of all
go.
time, as of right now.
Yep, as of right now, for sure. Ant. Hopefully, Ant passes him
Hopefully, Ant's the
someday.
greatest
But
of all time. But
right now, it's Cat as the second. I don't know, man. I love you, Cat. I've spent way too many hours debating on how great you are with anybody who will listen to me. So have fun in New York.
Kat, I know you listen to this podcast. You're a faithful listener, and you're gonna tweet this out later, so that more people listen with you. But I appreciate everything you brought to this organization, the wins you brought us, the 62 points and still losing game, which was electric for about 30 minutes when you made like 9 threes in a row, but then we lost. So it's a little complicated.
Worth it.
No one quite like Karl Towns. We're going to miss you. And I'm going to mostly miss your zesty interviews with Ant and the bromance. It's been budding. That's the other thing. That was my favorite part of the last
So
year
sad.
was
I was watching
bromance.
some like where they would do all these Ant and Cat clips to like sad music. I really want to make one to like Don't Fall Asleep by Jars of Clay. I really want to make a Cat and Ant video to that. Or I was thinking of making like a freestyle basketball sad video to that.
Yeah. Oh, rest in peace, Karl Towns. It's been real. New York, though. Hey, Jake.
Treat him well.
Yes. Jake, thanks for joining. Hope you survive. You're in a tsunami right now, right?
Typhoon.
I got it wrong.
It could actually be really bad because they almost never hit Kaohsiung. They always come from the east.
Yeah.
This could be like the last one that we got a message from like the government. It's like 47 years ago, this was a disaster, and this one is like could be worse than that one. So,
jeez, do you need to leave your house? I mean, I'm afraid your thing's gonna come.
I know where to go.
True.
It's all right. I'm on the 17th floor, so if I fall, there's a long ways to fall.
Gosh, do you guys have parachutes?
No,
umbrellas?
we have big umbrellas though.
Okay, use the umbrellas.
I have good umbrellas.
Yeah, and put Luca on your little chest strap.
Yeah.
Get the biggest umbrella you got. Just Mary Poppins it.
I got multiple umbrellas. We'll be good.
Okay. Well, took the darkest timeline. All right. Thanks, Jake. Shout out to our boy Karl Anthony Towns. Shout out to his zesty interviews. Shout out to Coach Tibbs. Ice and all the fun he's gonna have in New York, and hopefully not overplay him to death. Hey, bless those knees. Bless those knees.
Yes.
Shout out to the number 1 pick, Karl Anthony Towns. We believe in you. We love you. Jake.
Love you, Cat.
Till next time.
You are the man.
What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams usually.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year. How much more we gotta lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
What did you notice? What flipped for you guys to allow you to climb back in it and take this?
Started hitting some shots, playing some defense, even better at a higher level, I thought, and just this is Timberwolves basketball. I think this was just a real showing of Timberwolves basketball at its finest. Where it's a team effort. We got hype for players that we have, me, him included on this table, but like I said, we don't have a big 3, we got a big 15. We every single person on this team means a lot to this team, and they help in so many different ways. And this game just shows that the Timberwolves, not Anthony Edwards, not Karl Anthony Towns, not Rudy Gobert, the Timberwolves are a special team.